All right, so the Oklahoma Sooners got some massive news over the past day and a little bit more about some transfer portal guys that are going to be joining the program. And if you're an OU football fan, you're now pretty excited about the trajectory and the future of the program, especially going into what some people are calling a must-win year for Brent Venables. So we got to talk about some of the massive moves that were made for Oklahoma because they're massive. These players are really good players. And additionally, we're going to talk about their impact, what we think could potentially happen. Before we do that, as always, though, join the discussion, jump in the comments below. If you're one of the 65% of the people that watch these videos but are not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps keep the channel free. And although we're not always first to putting out the content, we bring you good content, and it helps me buy diapers. I did not realize how much diapers were until I had little Griffin over there, and now she goes through like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 a day. So, all right, Oklahoma got some big-time news, and if you guys have been trying to keep up with the transfer portal, I feel you. It's not easy to keep up with. I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. And for the jackasses that are in the comments all the time, trying to act like I'm late to the news, being one day out on a video is not late. I can't post 3 videos a day. YouTube would not push you those kind of videos. They don't push out that many a day to you. So, yeah, don't be a jackass in the comments. I bring you guys good content as I can. I don't break the news of the players because it's not my place. If you want that, you got to go to the insiders where you can pay for that behind a paywall. But I try to bring you guys as much news and information that I can that is free, that's given to me. Yeah, and we got to start off with the big news for Oklahoma. That was, I think this is going to be a big-time pickup. I think he's going to make a huge impact for the Sooners, and that's Marvin Jones Jr. And you guys got to remember, because we talked about Marvin Jones Jr. quite a bit here on the pod, especially as, he got the offer from Oklahoma, and this recruitment's been kind of going on for a while. But Marvin Jones Jr., if you guys remember him, the 5-star defensive end back in the 22 class, ended up pretty much committing with Oklahoma, not publicly though. Ended up going to the University of Georgia, ended up transferring to Florida State, and now ended up here at Oklahoma. The thing is, just really hasn't been able to put it together on the field yet. He really needs somebody to go out there and develop him. And I felt like he had a decent year at Florida State. 25 total tackles, 10 solos, 4 sacks, 1 fumble or 1 forced fumble. Marvin Jones Jr. in a Miguel Chavis defensive end room is going to be an absolute monster, and he's going to wreak hell on some of these quarterbacks. If you look at some of the games that he graded out on, according to PFF, in some of these games where he didn't play a stellar talent, maybe he didn't grade out as well, but man, when he had to play good talent, he graded decent. And this is a guy that I think Miguel Chavis, Todd Bates, they can work on him. They can shape and mold him into a NFL defensive end. And if he puts it together, not saying he's going to be R. Mason Thomas, but he could really try to be the other R. Mason Thomas on the other side of that defensive line. So at SMU versus Clemson, graded pretty well in those games, obviously graded well against Duke. Miami struggled a little bit, but against Florida at the end of the season, when Florida was potentially one of the hotter teams in the country, again, graded pretty well against that team. So you look at this and you say, okay, what are you giving to Marvin Jones Jr.? Well, if he could be a guy that can come in for you and he can get you 4 sacks, he can get you 25 total tackles, which is what he did last year. Like, that's good production. That's decent production. But this is a splash get for Oklahoma in the transfer portal. By no means is this a small get for Oklahoma. Marvin Jones Jr. is going to make an impact. And this is a guy that I expect potentially see starting on the defensive line for Oklahoma in day one on the opposite side of R. Mason Thomas. Now, the other big transfer portal addition that Oklahoma got was from Oklahoma State, and that is going to be Kendall Daniels, the former linebacker / safety, whatever you want to call for him. But 6'4", 235 pounds. He's originally from the state of Oklahoma, actually from Beggs. This dude was a monster in high school. Total in his career, guys, he has over 200 tackles. He has 7.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 5 interceptions, 13 pass breakups. Kendall Daniels is going to be perfect for Brent Venables' cheetah role. Now, what do you expect Kendall Daniels to bring? Well, you expect him to bring just that. You expect him to be in this cheetah role for Oklahoma, a guy that can drop back in coverage, but a guy that can rush the quarterback, guys. I mean, you look at how he graded out at Oklahoma State, even in a year where Oklahoma State was not super great. He was one of their best defensive players. And against against a team like Kansas State, who's pretty well. I mean, 80.7 tackling grade. You look at his average coverage grade, 62.4, pass rushing, 71.6. This is a guy that you expect Brent Venables could potentially turn into, with that size, a second-round pick. I expect this guy to maybe, if he has just one hell of a year, a second-round pick. Now, the question is, does he play over Kendall Dolby? I guess that just really comes down to, does Kendall Dolby really redevelop and get healthy quickly after his injury? And maybe this is a thing where these two guys will swap out a little bit as Kendall Dolby ends up coming back. But a guy in his career that totaled 240 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 13 pass breakups, 5 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles in 3 seasons from a safety and a linebacker. Yeah, you want this guy on your squad. He makes a difference for you, and he wins you games. Like, both of these additions on defense for Oklahoma are guys that make an impact. These are guys that play for you day one. They potentially start for you. Now, the only other question is, what does Oklahoma do now in the portal? Because you expect Kendall Daniels kind of fills a little bit of a linebacker miss that you had with Lewis Carter going to UCF. But does Oklahoma look at another linebacker? Sterling Dixon is a guy that you definitely want to pay attention to. The linebacker freshman from Alabama. That's a name you got to kind of bookmark, keep in the back pocket. But a guy like Owen Waffle, the 6'2", 298-pound defensive lineman from Michigan, entered the transfer portal. I was told yesterday that Oklahoma would take another defensive end, and I know 247 Sports originally had Owen Waffle listed as a defensive end, so maybe that's what they were talking about. But this is a guy that would actually play on the interior. Now, he's a project. I don't think this is a guy that comes in and starts for you or plays significant rotational snaps. But Owen Waffle is originally from Hun School. He has a brother in Luke Waffle here in the 26th class that is a defensive end and is a tremendous player, a top 100 player in the country. But this is a guy in Owen Waffle that could be a power 4 starter down the road. And Brian Dawn, who's a national recruiting analyst, wrote it up perfectly like this. He said he's got a thick build with plus length, has low center of gravity and plays low to win leverage, has snaps on both sides of the ball as a fullback and a defensive lineman. Hey, maybe we'll see a package for this guy, right? He's strong, physical, hard-nosed player with a strong work ethic, showed the ability to bend during spring workouts, ferocious style of play evident. So this is a guy that he's going to be able to move offensive lineman. At 22 in high school, had 64 tackles, including 24 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. His dad played defensive tackle at Duke in 1990. So he comes from a background where his family has obviously been successful at this role. So I would expect Oklahoma to potentially kick the tires on Luke Waffle. And if you get a guy like that in this defensive line room for Todd Bates, you take Trent Wilson in the 25 cycle, Owen Waffle is the perfect addition to what you would consider a incoming freshman class. So I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. But Oklahoma made some massive moves this week, and there could be more on the horizon. Oklahoma might not be done just yet. So hit that like. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. We'll talk to y'all later.